Hey guys, good evening. Welcome to our RYD, also known as Retire Your Debt. What we want to do is help you get out of debt in half the amount of time and retire that debt for once and all. So I'm your host for tonight, Jonathan Burns. Thank you for joining us. And what you're about to hear here in a few minutes, you're going to hear from our specialist, Mr. Jeff Geske. He's going to give you a big overview about what RYD looks like in our organization. I've been doing this 18 years, and this program is something I've never seen before. I've heard people talk about the concept, but actually watching how the math works in our favor as opposed to paying against math, I'm telling you, it's a really good fit for those that really want to get out of debt and have a plan to get out of debt. So it's not a debt consolidation or anything like that. What it is, it's an actual plan to get you out of debt. So you know to the day and how much cash you will have at the end of the program. So I'm excited. I appreciate Jeff taking the time this evening. We do this every Tuesday. So Jeff takes time out of his schedule to do this and go over it with you. And at the end, we'll give you a chance to sign up to have a one-on-one consultation with Jeff to see how the math could work in your favor. And maybe it would be a benefit for you and your family. So with that, Jeff, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you for coming on this evening. And it's all yours.
All right, thanks, JB. So let me go ahead and pull up some slides. And like he said, our debt elimination program, it's very simple, it's very effective. What we find with clients that I have been working with is that we typically will get people out of debt in about half the time or less. And that's all of your debts: mortgage, car payment, credit cards, student loans, whatever it might be. So we just wanted to give you kind of an overview this evening of how the program works. And then we, like JB said, we do have the opportunity, if this is something you'd like to take a look at, to go ahead and schedule an appointment with me, and we can run through the math on your numbers. So, you know, the problem of debt in America is staggeringly huge. Right now, it's estimated there is about $16.5 trillion of personal debt in America. And that's a lot of zeros. It would hardly fit in the little panel there where we wanted to show you that. And what that averages out to is about $96,000 per household, right? This is how much debt people have. And so if we look at, well, you know, what are some of the biggest types of debt that folks have? Credit card debt obviously is a big one, and these are fairly recent numbers. I just updated these about a week and a half ago. $890 billion, almost $1 trillion of credit card debt. Then we also have, of course, automobile loans, car loans, truck loans. That's estimated to be $1.5 trillion of debt that we have on the automobiles and the vehicles that we drive. Big one is also student loan debt, a little bit bigger, about 1.6 trillion. And I know that they just recently opened up the ability for people to apply for some forgiveness, but that's going to really only impact a very small number of people that are actually going to qualify for that. And it's actually for a pretty small amount. So the student loan debt is not going away anytime soon. The next biggest one is mortgage debt, right? $11.4 trillion of mortgage debt. And, you know, these are the big ones that we all have. And for most of us, you know, we would like to, you know, begin saving money, you know, set aside money for the future. The problem is that debt is a four-letter word when it comes to saving money, right? Because it is hindering our ability to be able to do that. And when we look at, you know, again, the plan that most of us have, you know, we have a timeline laid out, you know, depending on how old you are now, you know, we're going to work a certain number of years. We're going to set aside, you know, a little bit of money for our retirement and accumulate that wealth that we would like to have, not only for ourselves, but for many of us to be able to pass that along as a legacy to our children, our grandchildren, our families. The problem is that it's very difficult to have that kind of financial freedom that we would like to have because of the debt that kind of is pulling us down, right? It's getting in the way of us being able to accumulate that wealth that we would like to have. And so, you know, if you're in debt, you know, you have this problem too. And here's the reason why. let's say, for example, whatever job you're working, your gross salary, your paycheck, and this would be monthly, let's say it's $7,500, which is, that's pretty good. This is what you've earned, right? This is at the top of the line. Problem is, we also have to do things like pay federal taxes, health insurance for our families, of course, state taxes, unless you're one of the fortunate who lives in a state that doesn't have state income taxes. Again, the 401k, the 403b, whatever you got, to set aside money for the future. And so when we're finished paying the taxes, setting aside money for retirement, health insurance, the amount that we get to keep is around half of that. And this doesn't take into consideration lifestyle expenses, right? If you have rent or you have mortgage, just utilities, food, shopping, the things that your family needs. And so this is why, this is a problem for us, because what we earn is one number. What we actually have left over once all of the bills have been paid is a much smaller amount. And when we look at our gross income, right, that top line number, we imagine all the things we would like to have, a nice car. Let's say that's I don't know what kind of car that is. Let's say that's maybe a Mercedes, a nice Gucci purse, a nice home for our families to live in. If we look at our net income, right, that amount we're allowed to keep, all of a sudden what we can afford on the net income, salary is a little bit different. Instead of that nice Mercedes, maybe we're driving a late model Toyota. Instead of that Gucci purse, maybe we had to go to Target and get one there. And instead of that nice home that we would like to have, if we're just looking at what we can afford based on our net income, looks a little bit different than, our ideal, the thing we would like to have. And the problem is that, we all want a nice lifestyle, right? Nice home, nice car, nice things. And because we want that for ourselves and our families, it's easier just to say yes to being in debt rather than settle for, actually what we can afford if we could pay cash for everything, right? If we had the ability just to pay cash. So we go into debt. And for most of us, this is what we were taught, right? This is kind of the expectation that we have, is that, you're going to work, you're going to maybe save a little bit, but you also are going to have debt, right? And for most people, they don't even really consider, how long they're going to be in debt. It's just, what's that monthly payment and can I afford that payment? And we're going to take a look at that here in a few minutes. Because what most Americans experience on a monthly basis is, the money that we owe versus the money that we're able to save. And again, because most of us have these debts, the money that we owe, is a fairly large amount. So we're paying that to the bankers, the lenders, the credit card companies, whoever that might be. And the money that we're able to pay to ourselves, as it were, is a very small amount after we're finished paying off all our debts. So the question is, if we could teach you how your money can compound for you instead of for your banker, if we could show you how that works, how much would you want to put into that program so that you're able to change what that picture looks like? So instead of having such a large amount that we owe to the lenders, the bankers, the credit card companies, we're able to have that money for ourselves and to have that cash that's going to accumulate, again, so that we can have that financial freedom that we all want to have. Now, when we look at where our money goes each month, there's a lifestyle, or rather a lifetime income model. And this is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And this is both before and after retirement. So we see where, generally speaking, the money's going. But again, because most of us don't have cash to pay for that lifestyle that we would like to have, we end up going into debt. And again, on average, most of the clients that I work with, roughly 25 cents of every dollar that they earn is going to pay some sort of a debt obligation. Again, mortgage, credit cards, student loans, personal loans, medical debt, whatever it might be. And so this is what, again, sort of drags us down in terms of having that financial freedom that we would like to have. Now, Albert Einstein has been credited with saying that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. The person who understands how that works, they're the ones earning it, right? They figured out how to make compound interest work in their favor. The person who hasn't figured that out yet is the person that's paying that compound interest to somebody else. And so guess which one of these applies to you if you're in debt, right? So if we're the ones in debt, we're the ones making that monthly payment. We're not the ones earning that compound interest. It's the companies that we're paying that money towards that are earning that. And this is what we want to turn around for our clients. This is what we want to change for them. Now, here's why this is so important. Let's say, for example, we've got a $200,000 mortgage, 4.5% APR, 30-year loan, very typical. And actually today that 4.5% is pretty good rate. The question that we need to understand is what's the effective interest cost on this mortgage? And the way that we calculate that, the way that we figure that out is we simply go out and get an amortization calculator, a mortgage calculator, and we just plug in the numbers. So we got a $200,000 loan, 30-year time frame, again, the 4.5% APR, and the calculator will tell us what the monthly payment's going to be on this mortgage. And so what we find out is for this mortgage, we're going to be spending $1,013.37 every month for the next 30 years to pay the loan off. Now, the other thing that this will do for us is we can pick any point in time, and the calculator will show us out of that $1,013, how much interest are we sending in? You know, what portion of that payment is just interest? And so if we look at the very first payment that we make on this 30-year mortgage, what we see is that the monthly interest, right, just the portion of that $1,013 that's interest is $750. So if we just do very simple math, right, we divide the 750 by the 1,013, what we find out is in that very first payment, the effective interest cost that you're paying to the mortgage company is 74%. And what that means is that they're earning a rate of return from, lending you this money of 74%. Now, most of my clients, they understand, at least conceptually, right? When you first get a mortgage, they've heard, oh, you're going to be paying more interest than principal, right? Especially in the first few years of that mortgage. And then over time, that's going to change. You start paying less interest, you start paying more principal. So let's take a look at that. By the end of year one, the effective interest cost is still almost 73%. So it hasn't really changed a whole lot. We go to year 5. Even at year 10, we're almost a third of the way through this 30-year mortgage. The effective interest cost that we're paying to the lender is still almost 60%. And the question is, where on God's green earth can somebody like yourself or myself find, any kind of an investment or a mutual fund or a stock, any kind of strategy where we are consistently earning, 60, 70% return on that investment? And the answer is nowhere, right? But the banks, the credit card companies, they understand how this effective interest works. That's why they're so happy to lend us money. Now, if we take a look a little bit further down, we get all the way to the end of year 25, right? We're almost finished with that 30-year loan. The effective interest cost is still over 20%. And so again, if we think about, like right now in the market, what would be a good rate of return? Maybe 7%, 9%, 10% would be a great rate of return in the market right now because nobody's making money in the market. But even when the market is down like it is right now, guess who's still making money, right? And that's the banks, the credit card companies, the mortgage companies. And so again, we'd all be happy with 20% return on some kind of an investment. And what we see here is that the lending companies are making that and much, much more when we're sending that payment every month on that 30-year mortgage. And so what people don't think about is, they say, oh, 4.5%, that's a good rate, right? That's a pretty good rate on my loan. What they don't think about is how that 4.5% is amortized over that 30-year time frame. And they calculate the interest for the full 30 years, and then they front load that into the first payments that we make. That's why the effective interest cost is around 74% when we first get a loan like this, because they're collecting their interest right up front. That's their profit, and they're getting that, all of the profit that they can. And then once we get further to the end of that 30-year loan, that's when we're starting to pay down more and more of the principal balance. And so what we find out is that at the end of this 30 years, we have sent in $164,813 of just interest. So again, that's the profit that the company has made from lending us that money. And so what we find out is that when we spent, that 30 years, paying for that $200,000 home, in effect, we paid almost $365,000 for that house. And again, most of us have been taught this is just the way things work, right? And people are happy because, usually real estate appreciates over time. So it's, it's not that this is, a bad kind of a debt, but if we can help you reduce the time that you have this debt, and for most of us, a mortgage is the longest, biggest debt that we have. If we can help you reduce that time to half the time or less, think about all of the interest that you're saving, and think about all the interest that the bank is not making off of you when you're paying on your mortgage. Now, if you were able to become debt-free, the way that works, the key here, and this is what we want to kind of communicate, is that when your money compounds for you, it's always better than when it's compounding for somebody else. And so again, if you think about, that 30-year mortgage and that pie chart that we looked at, right, that 25% that we're spending each month on our debts, anytime we give somebody else that dollar, we forever lose the ability to earn compound interest on that dollar in the future. And when we think about the 30-year loan, right, 30 years is a long time for us to be giving that dollar to somebody else. Because as Einstein said, they're the ones, earning that compounding interest, right? This is the eighth wonder of the world. And he's right. It's like, where can you find that kind of return on your money? And so what we want to do is we want to change that situation so that we can have compounding interest working in your favor. Because as time goes on, the interest that we lose, that we're not earning on that money that we send in every month, for the credit card payment, the student loan payment, the mortgage payment, whatever that might be, the interest that we have lost, right, the potential interest, that doesn't get better with time, like fine wine does, right? The older wine gets, the better it should be. But the longer we take to pay off our debts, the more and more we have lost in potential earnings for ourselves, right? The more we have lost in the potential compounding interest that we could have working in our favor, instead of letting that work in the favor of the banks and the lenders. Now, let's take a look at an example. We've got Max and Megan, and they have a problem. They have too much debt, and their money is compounding for the banks, the credit card companies, and not for them. And like most of us, right, they like nice things, but again, they don't have cash to pay for those nice things. And so this is what their debt situation looked like. They had about $3,900 in credit card debt. The wife had a student loan for $31,000, and the balance on their mortgage was about $184,000. So all said and done, about $219,000 of debt. But the thing that I have learned is it's not necessarily the amount of debt that's the issue. The issue is this, and it goes back again to that effective monthly interest cost. And for Max and Megan, theirs was a little over 35%. And they didn't like that feeling, knowing every month when they send in their payments on these three loans, knowing that roughly a third, right, a little bit more than a third of what they're sending in, that's just pure profit for those lenders. It goes into their profit account. Doesn't benefit Max and Megan in any way, doesn't bring down their loan balances. Again, it's just the cost of, being allowed to borrow money from these lenders. And so this is, again, the problem that we want to help correct for you. And because they're only a few years into their 30-year mortgage, for Max and Megan, this problem isn't going to go away for another 26 years. So the solution for them is they did commit to a Retire Your Debt Action Plan. And now we are helping them compound money for their own benefit, right? So that they're the ones earning that compound interest. And we are going to help them totally eliminate that $219,000 of debt. But here's the difference. With our program, by them taking that action, we're going to have them be completely debt-free in 8 years, not 26 years. And when I say debt-free, that's all of their debts, right? Again, the credit card, the student loan, the mortgage, everything will be completely paid off in 8 years. And when they're finished with the program, they're also going to have almost $150,000 in cash assets. So again, we've got the compounding interest working in their favor. And the idea is we want to help our clients not only get out of debt, but we also want to help build these cash assets along the way so that when they are finished paying off all their debts and they're, they've completed the program, now they have cash to help them stay out of debt. They don't have to put something on the credit card. They got money in their account that they can use for that. And so when they're finished, they'll be able to say, not only are we debt free, but now we've got money in the bank, right? Again, to help them stay debt free, to help them, stay in that place of not having to send payments into somebody else. Now, as JB mentioned at the beginning of the call, and we want to be clear about this is not loan modification. It is not any kind of debt consolidation. We're not talking about any kind of refinancing. This doesn't affect your credit score in any way. That doesn't affect that at all. And there are no fees that you pay to myself or to the program to have this work for you. Now, the idea here that there's nothing magical about getting rid of your debt, right? So we do have a program that we use, and it is very specialized. It's a very unique program. Jonathan mentioned he hadn't seen this before, and we've been working with this program for about 6 months, and it's just amazing. I find literally on a daily basis that I'm working with clients, and again, we're able to help them get out of debt in half the time or less, and we're able to help build those cash assets so they can stay out of debt. And again, what's happening under the covers, kind of behind the scenes, is that there's the power of that compounding interest that works in your favor. And so we're able not only to use that compounding effect to help you get out of debt more quickly, but again, building that cash account to help you stay out of debt when you're finished with the program. Okay. Now, the only prerequisite that I would say, exists in terms of, who would qualify for this is, either you're paying extra on some of your debts already. And I've got a lot of clients who, maybe throwing a couple $100 extra at the mortgage, or, their student loans or their car loans, whatever it might be. Or if you've been thinking about it, right? It's like, well, I've heard that if we pay extra, that's going to get that debt paid off sooner. So either you're paying extra on your debts, or you have the ability to pay extra, then you're a good candidate for the program. And so JB is going to put a link in the chat. And if you just want to go ahead and copy that down, or you can just click on it right now while we're still in the meeting, that will take you to my calendar. And I have a lot of availability from early in the morning until late at night. I've got some Saturday morning availability as well. And what we want you to do is find a time that works for you. And if you're married or have a significant other, we need you both on the call. And we'll go ahead and I'll explain in more detail. We don't have time tonight to get into the fine details, but I'll explain how the program works. And then what we'll do is we'll build a model based on your numbers, right? And I'll just show you the math. And really all this does is it takes advantage of that compounding interest. And, it's, again, there's nothing magical. It's just simple math that we use to help you get out of debt sooner. Now, if you would like to, have a meeting with me and we'll, take a look at those numbers, I'd like to give you just a little bit of homework. And so this is helpful if you could, just jot these things down before we get together for our debt elimination appointment. And what I'd like you to do is for each one of your debts that you have, again, the mortgage, student loan, car loan, whatever that might be, your credit cards, if you could just jot down the loan balance, right, approximately how much that is. We don't have to have it down to the dollar and the pennies. As long as we're close, that's good enough. Second thing is the minimum payment that the company's asking you to make. And then the third thing is, well, what's the interest rate that they have given you on that particular loan? So if you could just, very quickly kind of jot these things down, just write those 3 things down for each one of your loans, each one of your debts. It'll just help streamline our appointment. And again, that'll help us to go ahead and create that model for you so that we can see, does this make sense for you? Would this be helpful for you? How much more quickly can we help you get out of debt? And what would that cash, asset account look like for you when you're finished with the program? Okay, so that's all I have for tonight. JB, I will go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Okay, well, thank you, Jeff. Thank you for taking the time. I love the program because, I was a math major growing up, and it's just simple math. It's all about having a game plan to be debt free. I have a lot of friends that always ask me about, debt, and they're wanting to get it paid off, and they see this commercial on TV, they see this, and a lot of that stuff is like Jeff talked about, consolidation, refinancing, just trying to get you to pay more interest somewhere else, right? What I love about this program is you get to take advantage of compounded interest, right? So if you feel like this would be a good fit, you want to see if this program would be beneficial for you and your family, get on Jeff's calendar. As you can see, he's very passionate about helping people create a plan to where they can be debt free. I forgot the number of how many millions of dollars that he's helped people create a game plan to get out of debt. And over the next couple of years, we're going to start having more and more people talk about how, on that Tuesday night, they saw Jeff talk about how they could get out of debt, and they created an action plan with Jeff, and they were able to be debt free. So I'm excited over the next coming year. So if you know of somebody that might be beneficial to this program, maybe a family member or a neighbor, we have the link for you to get registered. We do this every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're here to help some people because we're on a mission now. We're on a mission and a crusade to go out and help America get out of debt. As you saw, Jeff, the Instagram life of everybody wanting to go in debt, get this bougie stuff, get this. You can still have great things. You don't have to live like a hermit and, use little envelopes and stuff like that. You can still have the lifestyle you desire, but at least you have a game plan at the end of the day, and to the day when you're going to be debt free. So I look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Help us spread the word, invite some people. We will talk to you guys then. You have a good evening.